And the beauty of it, and this is the thing people don't realize about rural bands, but it's why frequently bands from outside the city these days are the ones blowing up, is because your expenses are so much lower. Hey, so I wanted to talk real fast about building your local scene. This is something that I see a lot of people trying to understand and a lot of people struggling with, especially in more rural areas where the idea of a scene isn't maybe as obvious as it might be in New York City, where there's 5 metal shows going on tonight, right? So when you're trying to build up your local scene, it comes down to a few core ideas. First and foremost, it's bringing the bands to you. Then it's using that to build a regional following, which is going to be your home base. And then turning that home base into a movement. It's really simpler than I make it sound, because here's the thing. For a lot of bands in rural areas, it's actually relatively easy to book rural areas, especially for sort of those C or D level tours that need another stop between Seattle and Salt Lake City, for instance, which is a long drive and frequently bands are doing it direct, or between Salt Lake City and Denver, right? Like, bands are starting to stop in Grand Junction, and that's really good because it cuts the drive in half, and it's a great value add, you know, or adding that Lincoln show when you play in Omaha. And you need to be doing this because bands aren't going to decide to play Grand Junction in Colorado, for instance. There needs to be someone there booking. Weed, California has a burgeoning scene for the same reason, because people are starting to give a shit. And this is something that's gone back through the annals of DIY and hardcore. Corrosion of Conformity got their start because they would book shows in Raleigh, North Carolina, where not a lot of bands were playing, and they just became the people who'd bring your band to Raleigh, North Carolina, and then they'd put themselves on to open, right? And that's how you start to build a scene, is you start to have shows happening. And the thing is, you might say, oh, well, no one in my area cares about this type of music. When you're the only thing going on that night, it's a lot easier to get people to come out, right? If you're the only show in town for any type of heavy music, or even in some cases any type of music, people are just going to come out because some people want to see music. And obviously now it's harder than ever because people have so many different entertainment options, and I understand that. But if your competition is lower, it becomes easier, you know? Again, there's 5 shows happening in New York City tonight. Do you really think a local band is going to pull on their 6th all-local band show? No, you need to have the touring bands out there because that's what's unique and new. That's what's going to help in New York City. In rural areas, local bands can get traction. You can start to move the needle a little bit more than you could otherwise. And that is crucial for growth of your band over the long term, right? And so here's the thing, is once you do that, because there's not a lot of competition, you're going to start to build a home base. You're going to start to get hometown pride. Look at the way Every Time I Die did it in Buffalo, where that's another band who booked every band there, brought bands there, and then leveraged it and turned it into a thing. And now they have Every Time I Die Day in Buffalo, and people come from all over the world just to see Every Time I Die play a hometown show. And you can cultivate that because people have hometown pride. So give people that. Give people a reason to feel proud of their hometown. You know, give people a reason to kind of come up with you and grow. And the beauty of it, and this is the thing people don't realize about rural bands, but it's why frequently bands from outside the city these days are the ones blowing up, is because your expenses are so much lower. I pay a ridiculous amount in rent, right? Like 3 or 4 times what some of my suburban friends pay, much less what my rural friends pay, right? That, you know, and then and I know there's other costs involved with living in the suburbs or a rural area, but like broadly speaking, it's a lot cheaper to live in Arkansas than it is to live in Brooklyn. When it comes down to it, you have this great core home base that has pride in you that you've cultivated by bringing other bands in, the way 20 Watt Tombstone did in Wausau, Wisconsin. Like, who the fuck's gonna go to Wausau? I don't know. 20 Watt Tombstone will bring them and cultivate the scene. So you have this home base where you know you can play 2 or 3 times a year, make some money, protect your line of supply, right? And then you can go out from there. And the thing is, if your expenses are low and you come home with only a few $100, at least that can hopefully cover your rent or something. And it's really just building off of that you're going to grow, find those next steps, etc., etc. So appreciate your rural scene and build a scene out of that by bringing the bands in and then cultivating pride from there.